What if every grain of salt in the ocean vanished? Right now, all at once. No warning, no gradual fade, just gone. It sounds harmless, maybe even nice. Freshwater oceans, forever. But the ocean isn't just water with a pinch of seasoning. Salt is load-bearing. It holds up currents, climate, and nearly every living thing beneath the surface. Pull it out, and you're not cleaning the ocean, you're breaking it. Let's set the rules first. At this exact moment, every dissolved ion of salt in every ocean on Earth disappears instantly. The water stays, the heat stays, only the salt is gone. No new salt enters from rivers or rock. We're not asking what happens over millions of years. We're asking what happens in the hours, days, and years right after the switch flips. Here's what the science actually says would happen. First, the numbers. The ocean isn't lightly salted. Average seawater sits at about 3.5% salt by weight, roughly 35 grams of salt in every liter, according to long-standing data compiled by NOAA and research institutions like Scripps Institution of Oceanography. Multiply that across roughly 1.3 billion cubic kilometers of ocean, and you get an almost incomprehensible number, something on the order of 50 quadrillion tons of dissolved salt spread through every basin on the planet. 50 quadrillion tons, gone in an instant. To put that in perspective, that's enough salt that if you piled it onto the continents, it would bury every landmass on Earth under a layer many meters thick. It's not a seasoning, it's a structural ingredient, dissolved so thoroughly into the water that most of us never think about it as mass at all. Now imagine all of it gone in an instant. The first casualties wouldn't be dramatic, they'd be invisible, and they'd be everywhere. Every fish, coral, and plankton cell in the sea survives by carefully balancing salt and water across its membranes, a process called osmoregulation. Saltwater fish constantly fight to keep salt out and hold water in. Take the salt away, and that balance doesn't just shift, it reverses completely. Water would rush into every cell, uncontrolled, following simple osmosis. Cells would swell. Many would rupture. Within hours, marine biologists studying osmotic shock in fish, including foundational work from researchers at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, suggest the vast majority of ocean life would face lethal cellular stress almost immediately. Coral reefs, dependent on precise mineral and salt balances to build their calcium carbonate skeletons, would begin to break down at the chemical level within days. Even the smallest organisms wouldn't be spared. Bacteria and single-celled plankton, the base of the entire marine food web, rely on the same osmotic pressure to keep their outer membranes intact. Without salt holding that pressure steady, entire microbial communities would begin failing before the larger animals even showed visible signs of distress. But that's just stage one. It gets worse. Because salt isn't just biology, it's physics. It's the invisible engine driving how the entire ocean moves. Deep beneath the surface, seawater doesn't just sit still. It flows in a slow, planet-spanning current system called thermohaline circulation, sometimes nicknamed the ocean conveyor belt. The physical oceanographer Wallace Broecker spent decades mapping this system, showing how differences in temperature and salinity cause dense, salty water to sink in places like the North Atlantic, while lighter water rises elsewhere, driving currents that redistribute heat across the entire globe. Take away the salt, and you take away the density difference that makes the whole system run. Without salinity gradients, the sinking stops, the conveyor belt stalls, and a conveyor belt that stops moving doesn't just sit quietly, it drags the climate down with it. Here's where the stakes escalate again. The Gulf Stream, part of that same global current system, currently carries enormous amounts of heat from the tropics toward Western Europe and the North Atlantic. Slow that current, and regions that depend on that borrowed warmth would begin cooling, even while the rest of the planet, no longer buffered by efficient ocean heat transport, would swing toward more extreme and unstable weather. Rainfall patterns, driven for millennia by predictable ocean-atmosphere interactions, would start to unravel. Monsoon systems across South Asia, which depend heavily on temperature contrasts between ocean and land, could weaken or shift entirely, threatening rainfall that hundreds of millions of people rely on for agriculture. This wouldn't be a distant, abstract disruption. It would reach dinner tables on the other side of the planet within a single growing season. Would coastal cities notice right away? Some effects would take weeks. Others would take years, but the trajectory would already be locked in. There's also a slower, quieter consequence most people never think about. Ships are designed around the density of salt water, calculated down to the centimeter, using something called a plimsoll line, which tells captains exactly how low a vessel can safely sit in the water. Freshwater is less dense than saltwater, meaning ships would suddenly float lower than their instruments and cargo limits assume. Every commercial vessel on Earth would, in an instant, be operating outside the safety margins it was built for. Meanwhile, back at the surface, a strange side effect starts to reveal itself. Salt is heavy. It's part of what keeps seawater denser than freshwater, which is part of why the ocean behaves the way it does, holding certain temperature layers, resisting rapid mixing, buffering surface temperature swings. Strip out the salt, and the entire ocean becomes less dense, more prone to rapid temperature shifts, more likely to freeze in cold regions and overheat in warm ones. Polar ice, which currently forms and melts against a salty backdrop that lowers the water's freezing point, would behave completely differently. Sea ice could expand into regions that are normally kept open by salt's freezing point effect. That matters more than it sounds. Newly frozen polar seas would reflect more sunlight back into space, cooling those regions further, while equatorial waters, no longer receiving the same redistributed heat, could grow warmer and more volatile. The planet's thermostat, quietly regulated by salt for hundreds of millions of years, would be running without its calibration. So now picture the full scene. Just days in, marine ecosystems in freefall from cellular shock. Deep ocean currents stalling as their driving force disappears. Coastal climates beginning to swing toward extremes as heat distribution breaks down, and an ocean surface behaving in ways it never has in human history. Consider the deep sea vents, far below where sunlight ever reaches. Entire ecosystems there depend on chemical energy rather than photosynthesis, but even those isolated communities rely on stable salinity to keep their unique chemistry running. There's no corner of the ocean truly insulated from a change this fundamental. Depth doesn't offer protection when the rules of chemistry themselves are rewritten. This is the point where the story usually asks, could anything survive? A few freshwater-tolerant species might handle the transition better, at least briefly. Species that already move between rivers and sea, like salmon or certain eels, have some built-in tolerance for shifting salinity. But even they evolved to handle gradual change over days or seasons, not a total collapse in an instant. The vast majority of marine life evolved over hundreds of millions of years around a specific salt balance. Removing it isn't an inconvenience. It's a wholesale rewrite of the rules those organisms are built for. Within a matter of months, researchers who study marine biodiversity collapse scenarios generally agree that the ocean food web, from plankton up through apex predators, would face the most severe extinction event in the sea's recorded history, and it wouldn't stay contained to the ocean. Roughly half of the oxygen we breathe originates from ocean phytoplankton, tiny salt-adapted organisms performing photosynthesis at a planetary scale. If salt disappearance triggers a mass phytoplankton die-off, that's not just a marine story anymore. That's a story about the air over your head. Fishing industries that feed hundreds of millions of people would collapse within a single season, and coastal economies built around them would follow soon after. Here's the twist most people don't expect. We tend to think of salt as this one, the ocean's problem, sitting way out there, disconnected from us. But your own body runs on almost the exact same principle. Human blood is salty, not by coincidence, but because our cells rely on the same kind of osmotic balance that ocean life depends on. Strip the salt from your bloodstream, and your cells would face the same uncontrolled swelling that reef organisms would face in a suddenly desalinated sea. The ocean's emergency, it turns out, is a scaled-up version of a chemistry problem happening inside you right now, every single second. That's the modern mirror hiding inside this whole scenario. The ocean isn't some separate alien system. It's the same physics, the same chemistry, just operating at a planetary scale instead of a cellular one. Salt is doing very similar work in both places, quietly holding structure together, invisible until it's gone. Broecker's models of the conveyor belt, the osmotic collapse studied in labs like Woods Hole, Scripps' decades of salinity data. None of these researchers built their careers imagining the salt vanishing overnight. But together, their work answers exactly this kind of impossible question, because they spent years mapping precisely how fragile and how essential that thin layer of dissolved salt really is. So, back to where we started. What if all the salt in the ocean suddenly disappeared? Not a gentler ocean, not a cleaner one. A planet where currents stall, ecosystems collapse within months, weather patterns unravel, and the very air we breathe becomes uncertain, all because of something small enough to dissolve invisibly into every drop of seawater on Earth. The salt was never just seasoning, it was structure, and the moment it's gone, everything it was quietly holding together goes with it.